All right, zombie fans, welcome to the Drunken Zombies Podcast, the daily fix of blood and guts.
And gut-busting terror.
That's right. Every single day, a new terrifying zombie story packed with suspense, horror, and just a little bit of, twisted fun.
We love them. We fear them.
Oh, yeah.
And we definitely enjoy watching people try and fail to survive them.
Oh, yeah. And joining me, as always, our resident expert in all things undead, the one and only
Julia.
That's right. And welcome to you, our listener. Get ready for a story that might just redefine what you thought you knew about the undead, or the divine dead, as it were.
Before we get into the horror, be sure to rate and follow the Drunken Zombies podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Keeps the zombies at bay.
It really does, at least helps us make more episodes.
That's right.
So today we're not looking at your typical shuffling horde.
No.
Our source material is painting a picture of something far more cosmic. We'll be unpacking a story called The Dead Gods. Now, this sounds a bit beyond your average zombie outbreak, doesn't it? It certainly does forget your shambling, brain-hungry neighbors. This tale introduces us to beings of immense power, godlike figures who have well taken a rather dramatic fall and aren't quite themselves anymore.
Not quite themselves.
Think less Night of the Living Dead and more Ragnarok of the Walking.
Wow.
For our listener today who enjoys getting knowledge quickly but thoroughly, this is going to be a fascinating look at how ancient myths could collide with a terrifying undead reality.
All right, so let's unpack this a little bit. The log line kind of sets the stage. A small-town priest and mythology buff named Elias witnesses a god plummeting from the sky.
Oh.
But this isn't a celestial rescue.
No.
It's the start of something truly horrific.
Yeah.
This fallen deity is now a decayed, mindless entity wielding unimaginable power, but with, chaotic intent.
Yeah.
Julia, what grabbed your attention right away with this setup?
What's fascinating here is the immediate blend of the mundane with the utterly extraordinary. We have a priest, someone dedicated to faith and established belief systems, suddenly confronted with tangible, undeniable evidence of something far older and more powerful, and now undead.
Wow.
The quote at the beginning, "Funny thing about gods, you don't really believe in them till you see one dead," really sets the tone for the unbelievable nature of this event.
Yeah.
It forces us to question the very nature of power and mortality, even for beings we consider immortal.
Right.
For our listener who appreciates multiple perspectives, this story immediately offers a clash between religious, mythological, and potentially even scientific viewpoints on what these beings are.
So the story kicks off with Elias having a rather ordinary day, pulling weeds, just another Tuesday.
Right.
When the sky literally rips open.
Oh, my.
And a massive figure falls. And it's described with some pretty vivid details, like scales gleaming with a light both heavenly and poisonous.
It's striking imagery.
Yeah.
It's not just a monster.
No, it's like a corrupted divinity. And then we hear about the aftermath, widespread devastation. This strange energy turning trees to mulch, just instantly.
Wow.
And refugees covered in this unidentifiable sludge, speaking in just these apocalyptic fragments.
Right.
What does this initial chaos tell us about the nature of these undead gods?
This immediate and widespread destruction highlights the sheer scale of power these beings possessed, even in their fallen state. The heavenly and poisonous light suggests a duality, a corruption of something inherently divine.
Right.
The effects on the environment, the mulched trees, the sickly smog, the strange sludge, indicate that their undead state isn't just a biological change, it's warping reality itself.
It's warping reality.
Yeah. For our listener who dislikes information overload, it's important to note that the story quickly establishes the gravity of the situation without getting bogged down in scientific explanations.
Right.
It throws us right into the terrifying consequences.
So despite the panic, Elias, our priest, doesn't just cower.
No, he doesn't.
His fear twists into determination. It's fueled by his studies of old stories tucked away by the world, myths he'd previously dismissed. But now these legends feel heavier than any Bible.
Interesting.
He packs a go bag, with practical supplies, but also includes a battered collection of tales about creatures beyond mortal ken.
Wow.
What's the significance of Elias turning to mythology in this crisis?
This is a crucial point. It suggests that perhaps traditional understanding and modern solutions are inadequate in the face of such a primordial threat.
Wow.
Elias is looking for answers in forgotten lore, hinting that the rules of life and death as we understand them might not apply to these entities.
Right.
For our listener who enjoys aha moments, this raises the intriguing possibility that ancient wisdom could hold the key to surviving a truly unprecedented catastrophe. It also speaks to the human tendency to seek patterns and understanding even in the face of utter chaos.
On a ridge overlooking the devastation, Elias finally sees the fallen god up close and personal. The description is chilling. A towering humanoid form. But instead of flesh, iridescent metal like ancient armor gone rotten, it's missing an arm, and in place of a face, there's this crackling white-hot light.
Oh my goodness.
With these hungry, poisonous yellow eyes.
That's terrifying.
And it moves with the unstoppable force of a landslide, even while stumbling.
Right.
This isn't your typical zombie craving brains, is it?
Absolutely not. This description moves beyond simple reanimation into something truly alien and powerful.
Right.
The iridescent metal and crackling light suggest a being of immense energy now corrupted and uncontrolled. The lack of a discernible face and the hungry, poisonous yellow eyes imply a primal destructive force, rather than a being driven by hunger or disease as we typically understand zombies.
Right.
The fact that its random movements are still devastating underscores the sheer level of power involved for our listener. This highlights the unique nature of this particular zombie scenario. It's not about infection, it's about surviving a walking force of nature.
And then comes Zara, battle-scarred woman with a rifle. She offers a more grounded, if grim, perspective. She calls it a fallen angel with a power outage, corrupt AI, or simply a walking apocalypse.
Right.
And when Elias asks if it can be stopped, she kind of laughs and asks if he's in a suicidal mood.
Oh.
So Zara brings a very different energy to the story. What does her reaction tell us?
Zara represents the pragmatic survivalist viewpoint. She's seen enough to dismiss any romantic notions of divine intervention or scientific solutions. Her cynicism and harsh humor are a stark contrast to Elias's more scholarly approach.
Yeah.
This provides a necessary balance and a different lens through which to view the threat.
Right.
For our listener who appreciates multiple perspectives, Zara offers a grounded, no-nonsense take on the situation, highlighting the seemingly insurmountable odds. Her willingness to face the apocalypse head-on, even with a touch of dark humor, also introduces an element of human resilience.
So together, Elias and Zara reluctantly team up. And eventually they encounter Theo, sarcastic hacker genius drawn by rumors of this monster.
Right.
But Theo initially dismisses the god as a CGI hoax or a military experiment.
Of course.
Even seeing it doesn't immediately convince him.
Wow.
So Theo's skepticism feels very modern, doesn't it?
It provides a contemporary viewpoint reflecting a world accustomed to technological deception and seeking rational explanations. His initial disbelief highlights the sheer absurdity of the situation. Even a hacker used to manipulating reality struggles to accept the impossible as the story progresses. Theo's skills will likely become crucial, showing how different forms of expertise can be brought to bear against this unprecedented threat.
Yeah.
For our listener, Theo's presence adds a layer of modern problem-solving to a scenario steeped in ancient mythology, creating an intriguing dynamic.
So the narrative jumps forward weeks, noting how the survivors themselves have been altered, forged into something tougher, stranger, perhaps a bit less human.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Elias, Zara, and Theo are now a makeshift team, encountering more of these fallen gods. And one scene describes a town square frozen in warp time by another undead god, one side skeletal and winter-blasted, the other bloated and poisonous.
No.
The variety of these fallen gods is striking. What does this suggest about their origins and the nature of their corruption?
The diverse appearances and the way they warp reality around them suggest that these weren't a homogeneous group of deities. Each one seems to have embodied different aspects of the natural world, or perhaps abstract concepts, and their undead state reflects a perversion of those original domains.
Yeah.
The time-warping god, for example, being both frozen in decay and chaotically overgrown, illustrates a fundamental imbalance, its core nature tearing itself apart. For our listener, this hints at a rich and complex mythology underlying this event, making it more than just a simple monster story. It invites curiosity about the pantheon these beings belong to and the specific nature of their powers.
So the team observes patterns in the way these gods affect reality, and they start to look for weaknesses. Elias, drawing on his mythological knowledge, suggests that their own imbalanced natures might be their undoing.
Okay.
Zara remains pragmatic,
Right.
looking for those vulnerabilities,
Right.
while Theo tries to apply his tech skills to understand and exploit these distortions.
Interesting.
This feels like the core of their strategy, using knowledge and observation to fight the unimaginable.
Exactly. They can't simply overpower these beings. Their approach has to be more nuanced, relying on understanding the specific way each god's corrupted essence warps reality. Elias's mythological insights provide the initial clues. Zara's battlefield experience allows her to identify practical vulnerabilities, and Theo's technical skills offer a way to potentially manipulate or disrupt the god's influence.
Wow.
For our listener, this highlights the value of different forms of intelligence and collaboration in facing overwhelming challenges. It's not just brute force, but cleverness and adaptation that offer a glimmer of hope.
So the story details how they learn to exploit these weaknesses. In one instance, overgrown acid-slick weeds, they kind of falter near a shattered clock tower, leading Theo to realize that frequency harmonics might be key.
Interesting.
And then Zara spots a massive copper chime on a surviving bell tower.
Oh.
And they realize that sound might disrupt the time-warping god. So the use of seemingly mundane objects, like a bell chime against a god, that's a fascinating twist.
It is indeed. It underscores the idea that even the most powerful entities might have vulnerabilities linked to their original nature or the specific way their corruption manifests. The copper chime, perhaps resonant with the fallen god's domain, overflowing waters, or the passage of seasons in its uncorrupted form, becomes a crucial tool.
Wow.
For our listener, this suggests that even in the face of overwhelming power, there might be unexpected and perhaps even simple solutions if one knows where to look and how to connect seemingly disparate clues.
So the bell is rung, shattering the time rift and creating this window of opportunity. But the decaying god retaliates with this beam of just annihilation. Zara pushes Elias out of the way and charges buying them precious seconds. Elias then uses an ancient bronze spear scavenged from a war god's burial mound while Theo works frantically on his makeshift tuning rig. This climactic confrontation. It's a chaotic blend of ancient and modern desperate action and calculated risk.
This scene encapsulates the core themes of the story. We see the intersection of mythology, the spear technology, Theo's rig, and raw human courage. Zara's charge. Elias isn't just a scholar anymore. He's taking direct action, wielding a weapon imbued with historical and perhaps even mystical significance. Theo is pushing the boundaries of his skills, adapting technology to combat a threat beyond its original scope. And Zara's selflessness highlights the strength of the human spirit in the face of annihilation for our listener. This demonstrates that survival might require drawing upon a wide range of resources, both tangible and intangible, and that even seemingly small acts of bravery can have significant impact.
Theo realizes it's not about a single loophole, but a cascade of chaotic vulnerabilities.
Right.
Elias wielding the spear, he also speaks ancient syllables, seemingly calling upon another, potentially uncorrupted god.
Wow.
Zara then uses makeshift explosives fueled with scavenged divine essence. The blast shatters the warped reality, and for a moment they're bathed in this clean golden light before the corrupted god is unmated. So many things happening at once.
This is wild.
Yeah. What are the key takeaways here about how they managed to overcome this threat?
The key here is their combined knowledge, adaptability, and willingness to take desperate measures. Elias's understanding of ancient lore allowed him to identify potential weaknesses and even call upon other divine forces.
Wow.
Theo's technical ingenuity enabled him to weaponize their findings.
Right.
And Zara's courage and resourcefulness ensured they had the opportunity to strike the use of divine essence in the explosives is particularly interesting, suggesting that the very source of the corruption might also hold the key to its destruction. For our listener, this reinforces the idea that complex problems often require multifaceted solutions and a willingness to think outside the box, even to the point of using the enemy's own power against them.
So the story concludes with a sense of exhausted hope. They haven't saved the world, but they've pushed back the tide.
Yeah.
There's a hint that other uncorrupted gods might need help,
Right.
suggesting a long and perilous journey ahead, and the nature of the threat also evolves with fallen gods now causing rifts in space-time itself, leading to collapsing realities. Their final confrontation involves a completely succumbed deity that is a swirling vortex energy-sucking reality itself. So the stakes keep escalating, and the nature of the threat becomes increasingly cosmic.
Right.
What's the ultimate message here?
The escalating threat underscores the truly existential nature of what they're facing. It's not just about survival anymore, it's about the potential unmaking of reality itself. The final act of Elias, Zara, and Theo running towards a door that shouldn't exist. A conduit to dimensions untainted by the corruption speaks to a profound act of faith and a rejection of despair, even with no guarantee of success. They choose to face the unknown rather than succumb to oblivion. For our listener, the ultimate message might be about the enduring power of hope resilience and the human spirit's ability to find a path forward even in the face of unimaginable horror and loss. It's about choosing action over apathy even when the odds seem impossible.
Wow, Julia, what a chilling and thought-provoking tale. Fallen gods turned undead, warping reality itself. Definitely a far cry from your garden variety zombie outbreak.
It really is.
So for you, our listener who joined us on this exploration, we hope this glimpse into the dead gods has sparked your imagination and maybe even a few late-night thoughts about what truly lies beyond our understanding.
Absolutely, Adrian. This story beautifully blends elements of horror mythology and even a touch of dark humor, offering a unique perspective on a familiar trope.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder about the nature of power, the fragility of even divine beings, and the resilience of those who dare to stand against the unthinkable. And as Elias pondered at the end, perhaps even in the darkest of times, there are still paths to be forged, even if they lead into the unknown.
What's fascinating here is how this story takes the core elements of a zombie narrative survival against overwhelming odds, a world irrevocably changed, and elevates it to a cosmic scale.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that the scariest monsters might not always be what we expect, and that sometimes the most effective weapons are knowledge, courage, and the willingness to believe in the unbelievable.
For our listener who enjoys further exploration, this story opens up so many avenues. You might find yourself pondering ancient mythologies, the nature of good and evil, or even the potential consequences of unchecked power. It's a reminder that the best stories are the ones that stay with you long after they're finished, prompting you to ask what if and to delve deeper.
Well said, Julia. And to all of you listening, if this descent into the world of undead gods has left you craving more tales of brains and mayhem, or perhaps just a little bit of existential dread, be sure to rate and follow the Drunken Zombies podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with another terrifying tale to keep you up at night.
That's right.
Until then, sleep tight and maybe keep an eye on the sky. You never know what might fall.
That's right.
This has been Adrian.
And Julia.
Thank you for joining us on the Drunken Zombies podcast.
See you next time.
Rate, follow, and we'll catch you in the next terrifying tale.
Bye.